and welcome back to the Cock Dice. In this week's video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my bases for my new Sisters of Battle army. These are pretty simple and are yet unpainted, but we're going for some sort of urban street with a cool tile pattern. I'm going to be able to paint up as, I don't know yet. I've not quite figured out the colour scheme for my sisters and bases and stuff, but we'll sort that out. But I wanted to do some sort of tile pattern to emulate some of the Triumph of St. Catherine style thing. So I'm going to put that to one side. I'll talk you through what I'm going to use. These are really, really simple. So obviously you want a base. You want a base that then sits on top of the base. We use that as a template. So the upper level is going to be a little bit up. You want some cork board. This is about 3mm thick. Buy it off eBay. Buy it from model railway places. You can get it in pin boards. There's loads of places to get this sort of stuff. I'm also using, so in the UK this is printed styrene, embossed styrene, sorry. Maybe called something else where you're in the world, but in the UK, look out for embossed styrene. I can't remember which company I got this from, but essentially it's very, very thin, bendy plastic, and you can see it's got the pattern of the tiles embossed into it. Makes life dead easy. You can get loads of different patterns of this. If we look at this one here, you can see on this base I've got a kind of brickwork pattern as well. There's loads of them. You can find them from model railway places. Yet again, I've got a stash of this I've had for years, and I bought about 20 sheets of it. It's taken me years to use it up. Next, you want some sort of mixed sand and pebbles. I basically going to pick out whatever we need from this just to help decorate the base and give a bit of a sense of rubble. And the final products I use Sterling Mud. I love this stuff. There's some cheaper options out there. I think Vallejo do a similar one that's a lot cheaper. But some sort of textured basing material just to fill in the blanks. You may also want my favourite crafting material for this, paper clips. If you want to make it look like reinforced concrete, paper clips are the way to go. They're roundabout in scale for rebar. You can always use styrene tubes such as this. You can see it's just a little tube, so if you want to do any sort of sewer vents and things like that, use that. Or otherwise, as you can see on some of these other bases, I've chucked on random bits of 40k pieces I've found in my bits box. Wires, skulls, anything you can find in your bits box that kind of looks the part for a ruined city. So for this first stage, we're going to start with the top, and we're going to start with the embossed styrene. So grab your smaller base and you can draw around it. Now, doing it this way is a little wasteful. When you get better at it, you can skip the kind of template step, but we're just going to draw a circle around it. So that's roughly the size of the top of our base. And we're going to make a piece that is broadly, let's come in here. So once you've drawn out your desired pattern, we're just going to cut this out. Then we're going to just start cutting these out. Now I'm actually going to go one longer than this, so I'm going to change my mind slightly, of course, because I'm on camera. So just draw your knife through the styrene as easily as you can. It helps to have a really sharp blade for this. So don't throw these bits away. They're really useful for using them up as kind of off tiles and random tiles. We'll use them later. So we'll just push them to one side for the minute. So we're just going to use some super glue to glue the tiles onto the cork. Now I do suggest that you put the glue on the plastic, not on the cork. The cork board does have a tendency of just sucking it up and drying it out almost instantly. So once it's had a little bit of time to dry, we are going to just cut this out pretty roughly, giving a bit of space all around the base so we can rough it up a little bit. Now the back of the base, we want to keep this curve, so just run your knife around the edge of the styrofoam. Again, keep this because it's useful for making extra rubble out of. So from now, we're just going to use your fingers and we're just going to pick off chunks of the edge. Just very roughly follow the shape you've made. Then we'll stick this onto our base. And then before we move on, cork is actually quite a soft porous material, and I have found if you just paint on it and the paint chips off, it shows the cork underneath. So we're going to grab our nice thin super glue again. We're just going to go all over this with a bit of super glue, as this will dry and really firm it up. Now obviously this is going to take a little while to dry, and you're all sat watching me, so unless this video wants to be 24 hours long, I'll stick this to one side. And here's one I made earlier. This has been super glued and is nice and firm. So next up, we're going to add some kind of bits of detail and interest to this. I'm going to do this like I've done the other ones. I'm going to use some paper clips, and I'm going to make some kind of steel rebar. So first of all, for this, we're just going to get a few lengths of paper clip. So paper clips will fit in here quite nicely, but I'm just going to give it a bit of a helping hand and poke a little hole through the super glue shell. Dob a little bit more super glue on there. Grab the teeny weeny bit of wire and poke it in. I just want to push it in so it's just sticking out. Quite often in terrain making, less is more. So don't let it stick out too far. Otherwise it just kind of comes off the base. Now I generally like to keep all my bases kind of tight to the base. Do the same around the front. So around about the middle of the cork, a little bit of a hole, super glue on it, stick it in. Yeah, grab an old brush, any sort will do, and then we're just going to dab the sterling mud all over the rest of the base here, not worrying too much about where we get it. And while that's still wet, we're going to pull in all our gravel. Now we're going to just grab some interesting bits. I want some kind of slightly, not too big, but I want some slightly bigger chunks of sand here. Drop a few of these onto the base. And then we'll have some thinner sand as well. Whilst you're doing this step, if you want to do any extras like stick tiles in, just stick them into the sterling mud while it's dry, before it's dry. It'll act as a bit of glue and keep them there. So the final step here is really to sort out this side. Now you could just green stuff around it, you could just fill it in whatever you like. I'm going to try and keep the chamfer that's on the base, so we're just going to take the knife and basically lean it against the edge of the base here. And you do need a really sharp knife for this, and a very careful fingers, and we're just going to work our way around. Make sure you focus on the top of the base. We want to keep that curve as smooth as possible. Now again, you could just leave this side kind of empty like that. Now I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim all this down. So grab your 2-part epoxy putty or whatever putty you're using. Green stuff's great. To be fair, better than this is Milliput, because it sands better. Once it's mixed up, you want to grab a length of this. I generally roll it a little bit. And then we're just going to feed it round back of the base like so. Grab a modelling tool, make sure it's nice and wet. Take the side of the tool, I'm just going to press it against the green stuff, working our way around like so. And because we've already cut the top of the base to kind of match that angle, this should fill this gap really nicely. There we go, and depending on how much effort you want to put into your green stuffing, you can either sit and work this until it's really smooth, or as you've done before, we can stick that to one side, come back and then just sand it round with a sanding stick and just smooth it all off. And you can see on this base, it's perfectly level now and all nice and evenly textured. And once that's been sprayed and painted up, you'll not be able to see, hopefully not be able to see the difference between the two, and you'll just have a taller base on one side. So there we have it, that's how I've done my bases for my sisters. And thanks for joining us here at the Clock Dice. Why not like this video and add a comment below? It really helps boost the channel. And while you're at it, if you click on the icon below, you can subscribe to the channel for all the latest updates as soon as they're live. Why not check out some of our other videos and playlists? You can click on the ones on screen right now. Take care, and we'll see you next time.